Back via popular demand, let's go through round 11's biggest winners and losers. The teams, the players, and the coaches that got it done or didn't get it done in a bigger way than some others. Let's hope we can get this one to 1K views for the first time throughout the series, because it is a bunch of fun to do and the feedback has been really good. So share with a footy loving mate, like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family, and of course, let's get into it. Let's start with the Swans midfield, who put on a clinic against the Bulldogs, and I'm going to talk about them in just a little bit. But the Swans midfield, I put out the Is the Brownlow race already over video, which did flop, but I knew it was a Thursday night footy. They usually don't do that well, that video, but someone must have shown Chad Warner that video because he thought 6 votes in the last 2 weeks. Daz, don't call me a trap in the Brownlow race. He was extraordinary with his 4 snags. Isaac Heaney did what Isaac Heaney does, and Errol Goulden, well, at this point, we could argue Errol Goulden did what Errol Goulden does. So, working beautifully at the moment is this Swans midfield. But don't underestimate the contributions of Jimmy Rowbottom as well, who's putting in a fantastic role. Jimmy Jordan's not really hitting as many CBAs because he's doing that frontal or even back flank lockdown role. He's taking care of Lockie Whitfield, these kind of guys throughout the last few weeks. Went to Bailey Dale, I nearly said Brendan Dale then. Bailey Dale early on in the game before going into the midfield. So that's working beautifully. Justin McInerney and Ollie Florent on the wings are going well as well. And I think Braden Campbell is stepping up, and his work between the arcs now is becoming more threatening. So a Swans midfield group that is still without Mills, still without Luke Parker as well, and a couple of others that could rotate through there, are flying at the moment. One thing, though, I want to say about the AFL media, if you compare this team to the 2000 Bombers squad again, I'm going to flip my shit. Other than that, Sydney couldn't be doing better at the moment, especially in the engine room. For the second time in a row, or the second winners and losers video in a row, I'm going to give a winner to a losing team or player. This time it's the Western Bulldogs. Their ability to adjust after their players. The playing for Bevo thing, I think, can kind of go out the window after this performance. They were fantastic after losing Aaron Norton, Anthony Scott, and who was the other player? Ed Richards, of course, with concussion, who was just about best on ground in that game as well. He was fantastic. So they didn't come away with the win, but they got a lot of respect, or I hope they've gotten a lot of respect from non-Doggies fans after this performance. They were unreal, and a credit to them. First loser of the weekend is going to go to the umpiring department, specifically for the Freo-Collingwood game, and the reason for it is simple. The umpires getting their decisions ticked off by the AFL is really starting to tick off fans, and I think it's for one specific reason, and that is not the fact that the AFL are backing in their umpires. I'm sure some people are annoyed at that, but frankly, consistency. We've talked about how much holding the ball isn't rewarded, and rules that are seemingly more prevalent than others. Was Lockie Sullivan trying to time waste? I don't think so, and the reason I know that is if you go back and watch the footage, Nick and Josh Dacos both knew it was a free kick straight away, and I both think they realised that even though it was a mistake, they knew they were in the wrong. As Collingwood fans wanted to lose their shit, they calmed them down and got them behind the ball. Collingwood were awesome throughout that game, and with the fact they had, I think, 5 players who had played 9 or less games, 10 or less games, something like that, they would almost be thrilled with a draw. Freo making the comeback that they did would almost be thrilled with a draw. And you can't tell me you wanted to watch more of that game. Like, come on. Wasn't a great spectacle. 75 each. Take the 2 points. Move on. 3 draws this year. Statistically an anomaly, but it's here to stay and we like it. But I think we're giving umpires too much interpretive power and stripping them away of common sense sometimes. So it's a shame. I don't like picking on the umpires. We don't have a game without them, of course, but you got to call it as you see it. And this rule favoritism, I don't actually think it's player or club favoritism, and I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but this rule favoritism and the semantical nature with inconsistent decision making is why fans are upset. So take your L. I love it when blokes that I've been a little bit hard on do the right thing or do good things or play well. So a North Melbourne player is going to get a winner of the weekend. Darcy Tucker played probably the best game I've ever seen him play. Now, Was he best on ground? No. North was still horrible, so that, kind of goes with that theme, I suppose. But Darcy Tucker is a guy that I've looked at and gone, he's this age, I think he's 26 at the moment, and he's just not delivering. He delivered on the weekend. So you can take a little win here. If I'm going to pot a club, a team, a player, whoever it is, if I turn around and not give them credit, then I'm not a footy analyst, I'm an arsehole. And if I'm going to be an arsehole, it's going to be on my terms, not on anyone else's. So Darcy Tucker, you can take the win, even if the North haven't had one yet. But speaking of that game, I'm going to give a loser of the weekend, and I'm going to give it to the rest of North, because their stats at the moment read horrifically, 9-11. Do I need to say anything more about this football club? No, I don't. So I'm going to go to an individual winner from the weekend. Did you have me picking 3 things to talk about from the North Port Adelaide game? Because going into this week, I don't reckon you would have done so. Jackson Mead is going to get a win for this game. Yes, Port Adelaide's midfield were dominant. They cashed in against a poor opponent. I'm going to give this guy credit. He did a really good job on Tom Stewart a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't all that fantastic against Hawthorn. And again, by no means am I saying he was the best man on the ground, but I don't remember him playing a better game than this. He's had 2 really good games out of the last 3, doing his job nicely and playing to his ability in a massive way. So shout out to you, Jackson. Very well played, young man. Going to give a loser of the weekend to Gold Coast. Whenever they have to fly south of Queensland, south of the Northern Territory, they're 0-5 outside of Darwin and outside of Gold Coast. They're 6-0 in those states. Which are you? Are you good? Are you bad? Are you in between? I'll tell you what you are. You're the 9th best team in the comp. And you're going to be 50-50. There's 23 rounds. You'll either be 12 and 11th and end up 8 or 9th, or you'll be 11 and 12 and end up 10th or 11th. But all in all, you're in footy bloody no man's land at the moment. So your midfield should be better, your forward line should be better, your back line should be better, and they are when you're up at the top of the country. But when you come down, you're useless. So, really good win by Carlton, by the way. I'll take nothing away from them. They were fantastic. But, a travelling Gold Coast. Yeah. And I'm going to give a winner of the weekend to Tom de Koning. Number 1, ruck. I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's why Pitney shouldn't play. And yes, I agree it is a lesser man's Jackson Darcy situation. But when you put up 25 touches against one of the most consistent and underrated ruckmen in the competition, and that is how I see Jared Witts, you deserve your plaudits. He was unreal, as was the majority of the Carlton midfield on the day. And Charlie Curnow should be really happy that Mac Andrew wasn't on him in the second half of that contest as well. So Tom de Koning, though, his brother had a bit of a rough one, it has to be said, a little bit after this game, but he was unreal, and I think his ceiling at the moment is the best version of himself. He is a player I'm getting frustrated with when people go, he's the next A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Just let him be the next best version of himself and let him progress throughout his career, for crying out loud. Geelong get a loser of the weekend. They were 7-0. They ain't that anymore, and not too many premiership teams lose 4 games in a row. So, yeah, they're going to cop this a little. Now, at some point, they'll turn it around. They'll probably still make finals, and it'll be like quite a few Chris Scott-led seasons have been. Pretty good. Get to September, recharge, potentially go again. We'll think the cliff is coming. It might not. Who knows? But at this point in time, they're playing shithouse. They deserve the L. It's not a Hawthorn fan saying this. It's someone who watched them on the weekend and, not good. And I know I said it in the round review, and I really liked that, I'm not going to lie, but Lee Cleary is going to get a winner of the weekend, not only for the way he played, and especially his last 4 efforts, basically, in that last quarter, but the fact that he missed the team song because he was taking selfies. If that's not the epitome of a fan favourite footballer, I don't know what is. So, for all of the reasons you can think of, Lee Cleary is a massive winner for the weekend. You love to see it. Going to give another winner here. I'm going to go to Jaden Laverty's last quarter here, especially the last 5 minutes of that game against the Tigers. He had 3 brilliant efforts inside defensive 50, 2 on Dusty Martin, 1 I think was on Shea Bolton. I could be wrong about that, but his ability to stop an offensive Richmond chain as they were coming really hard in that last quarter, and I thought Richmond were fantastic on the weekend. I also thought Essendon, were really good as well. They've just come off a 20-goal loss. They're going to be fit. They're going to be firing. But again, Essendon are winning games that previous Essendon teams were losing And fans are still going, are they the worst top 4 team in the world? Are they the worst top 4 team ever? They're fucking second, and they're flying. Their percentage doesn't mean jack. When Collingwood were a point off a grand final and winning all the close games, all it was Collingwood of this, Collingwood of that, and they probably should have played in that 2022 grand final before going down to the Swans. Like, sorry guys, percentage is overrated. Your wins are more important than the margin. I promise you. And Essendon have gone from losing those games to winning those games, and there are still media people, because anti-Essendon fans are going to not give them credit. I sort of get that. But there are still media that are going, yeah, but look at their percentage. Mate, you weren't fucking saying this about Collingwood, but you are about the Bombers. They're fine. They're going beautifully. And they haven't peaked yet. They're playing finals. We'll wait for them to win one if they do. But Bombers fans right now, I sincerely hope you are not complaining about much right now, because it's going beautifully for you. I really wish Nate Caddy had have kicked those 2 goals, but also Jaden Laverde having a sneaky good season. He looked like the guy who would have easily come out for a Zach Reid when he comes back into the side, or maybe even Jordan Ridley if they wanted to play him as a second tall defender. Did his job beautifully and has done it for quite a bit this year, so credit to him. Cam Rayner, who I watched really closely at Marvel Stadium, and also to the 2 very lovely gentlemen at different points who came up to me at Marvel and had a chat, one while I was at my seat and one coming back from grabbing myself a bottle of water. I really appreciate that. You guys made my day. If I had to have grabbed your names, and I apologise that I didn't, I am really not used to people recognising me, so I probably should have been better about that, but it was a genuine pleasure having a bit of a chat to you both, so thank you for that. That was amazing. But Cam Rayner, I was watching closely. He had 1 disposal and 2 tackles in the first half. Had 6 touches, 3 marks, and 2 tackles in the second. He did, let's be honest, fuck all in this game. But because he's not in Victoria, no one really cares. So Vic bias may be a thing if you want to bitch about the media, but if he was a number 1 pick in Victoria, 7 disposals, 3 marks, 4 tackles, no real impact on the game at all, and didn't score. But he's avoiding it. He's a guy that looks like he is riding the coattails of his teammates' form. Brisbane aren't going that well, neither is he. And he was one of the top 5 players who had Norm Smith medal money, put on him last year, and he wasn't the great in last year's grand final either. So, sorry Cam, probably a bit harsh, but Brisbane are going no good. Their senior players need to step up, and he didn't get it done. I have found it really amusing that Hawthorn fans have kind of gone to me, oh, now that you've criticised Sam Mitchell, you're not allowed to celebrate the win. First of all, that's for you. Second of all, Hawthorn proved me right, because their last quarter they kicked 5 goals too. Last week they kicked 1 behind. Guess which game they won? Exactly. And that's... that's me talking specifically to morons there, but to the intelligent people in the room. Hawthorn undefeated at Marvel. Why do they work at Marvel and they're not really working at other grounds around Australia? Well, twofold. One, their run and gun style helps them get out of jail. The gaps between the arcs are smaller and skinnier than some of the other grounds that they have lost on. So guys like Sicily, Amon, Scrimshaw, Jarman Impey are able to rebound with more penetration in their kicks and less distance to cover for a lack of tall forwards that don't need to present as widely as you do, especially at the MCG, which is why I think Adelaide are going to get a hold of the Hawks this week. I've given Hawthorn a win and then I've gone all pessimism on them. But also they're able to play tight, play constricting footy and go from there. It kind of reminds me of the Bulldogs in 2015 where they were so good at Marvel and probably should have won that elimination final against the Crows. Tex Walker setting up Charlie Cameron, which the Triple M commentary of that is elite, by the way. But the Hawks are going really well at Marvel and they learned from their mistakes, which as a fan makes me extremely happy. That video that I did on Hawthorn, I will stand by. I will stand by the fact that I'm extremely happy that Mitchell, the leadership group, Gunston, Bruce when he came on was fantastic, Marbior Chol was awesome, and the senior guys stood up when the game was on the line. They didn't do it last week, they did it this week. 2 things can be true, and with more info, opinions change. Hawthorn's last quarter, and the reason they won the game is because they put their foot on the throat of Brisbane and didn't let up. Was some of it inaccuracy? Potentially. Does that matter? No. Got to take your chances to win football games. And they did that. I'm a very happy Hawthorn man. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking about them. And the last winner of the weekend is going to go to Darcy Fogarty, who had 20 disposals, only kicked the 2 goals, but 10 score involvements. Half of his disposals led to Adelaide scores. They bitch-slapped a West Coast team that travelled to the Adelaide Oval, and they did it in style. They were unreal, and so was the man known as the Fog. He was awesome. So were the Crows and the Eagles on the road. This isn't exactly what they are, but didn't really go to plan on the day. The Crows had to punish them, and they did. Final still an aspiration for this Crows side, and they still could get there. Not going to lie, but I think top 4's, yeah, it's gone, unfortunately. But I'll address that come the end of the year. But there might be one take of mine that's actually worse than that Adelaide top 8. Well, top 4 prediction, I should say. But more on that around mid-September time. So I'm looking forward to that in a big, big way. But they're my winners and losers for the weekend. But as we know, the biggest winners of the weekend are you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. We've hit 2850 at the time of recording. Let's get to 2900, and 3000 would be amazing. The quicker the better. Got a monthly video coming at you on Wednesday, and doing these mock drafts is getting more difficult for me, which I like, in assessing talent, best, team fit, all these kinds of things, and they are so fun to do. So I hope you're looking forward to that on Wednesday evening, and you guys will be able to binge that whenever you need to throughout June before the next one comes out. So look after yourselves. Have a fantastic start to your week, or a continued start to your week, and I'll see you next time.